I direct and she does film composing. You're kind of in the middle. You're the editor. What's a good relationship for you as an editor with directors?
Typically, the way it works, like in television, it's usually the editor doing the first cut, um, because you know you got to give the director a chance to sort of detach themselves from it for a little while,
Yes.
and let the editor do their thing, and then the director can come in. But it's different with everybody. It's usually that way. With Patricio, me and him co-edit.
Okay.
He'll like to sort of assemble things in his way, and I'll come in and we'll go back and forth. But for the most part, I do like doing that first pass to really watch the footage first and get a sense of what we have. And then the director can come in and mold it in a way, but it's for me, I want to see stories get out there. So like, what's the fastest way, especially with independent work, right? It's sort of like, okay, it's all hands on deck. So
There's no big exec.
yeah,
Guy.
yeah, exactly. So you work it out based on your relationship. But the directors I've worked with in TV, it's amazing. I mean, you put it out there, and when they really know editing, they know what they've shot. It's a great process because they know why you've had to make certain choices. It's like, yeah, you know what, like that scene we couldn't really get to the sides. I love how you worked with this angle and still made it work. Yeah, you just have to, but make sure you watch everything. Make sure you know everything that's there, so that he knows you're not like cutting them out of, you're not giving them your best work. You know that you've seen everything that they've shot.
In editing, I would assume that you edit to like a temp track first before the composer has a chance to like send things in, because I know it takes a while. So when they do send that in and you have to kind of swap it out, what are things that can be, I don't know what the word is, disappointing in a swap out, I guess?
Because do you ever fall in love with your temp track and you're kind of like, it should be like the temp track?
Absolutely. Temp love is a real thing. With editors.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
But sometimes I don't think it's fair sometimes, right? Because say you're temping with like Hans Zimmer or something, and then there's a reason why he's like Hans Zimmer, So like, how come this doesn't sound like Hans Zimmer? Or like John Williams, make this sound like John Williams. And like, well, we're not working with this like huge orchestra and you don't have the same kind of budget, Yeah, I mean, I think it's being realistic, it's also maybe having the editor, give them a set of temp tracks, like, hey, this is sort of, or maybe that's where the producer comes in, right? They're like, hey, we're bringing on this composer, but these are the types of sounds we want to work with. Use score of these composers here. I think we can really hone in the sound. But yeah, I mean, that's a tough thing. I mean, on Mr. Robot music, temp music was really, 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 really detailed with our temp music, and it's temp, right? Composer's gonna come in and change it, but we still really like. I mean, we were working with stems, also. So we would take like the previous season's score and like take drum here and take the strings here and take the synth here and combine it. Yeah, it got really, really detailed. But I mean, there has to be an understanding that, hey, this is our composer, and this is what this is the sound we're going with. The editor will always kind of say, it doesn't, but
So that relationship is a little tough.
Yeah. It is. I understand, and like I said, it's not fair because we're temping with like Trent Reznor or something. Like it should sound like this, and hey, and you can't just straight up copy it, because that's like you can't do that. But yeah, then you have a lot of people temping with the same stuff, and so you have all these composers who are like basing their work off of that. So I don't know. That's a funny thing, because this practice of working with temp tracks. With our feature film Lumpia, with a Vengeance, I temped with a lot of John Carpenter, Harold Faltermeyer, who did like Beverly Hills Cop, for the more lighter comedic moments. And our composers did a pretty damn good job. It's tone, right? It's like sharing a tone. It's not following the exact notes, but it's a tone. And our composers, Jonathan Wandog and Mike Kobayashi, doing an excellent job with it. So yeah, but it's good to get that in there, right? Because it really emphasizes. Sometimes it's hard to communicate, the music without really showing them another piece of music, right? It's hard for I can't say like, oh, this needs to be more allegro here, and this is the crescendo happens. Like we want to like let me just give you a piece of music that you can sort of like give as a template, But sometimes, yeah, it may not be exact, but like, hey, and then after a while they'll get used to like, okay, this is the right sound. That temp track sounds weird now. So
is TV faster? Like faster turnaround than like a film? I mean, I'm sure it is, but like, is it less focused on music? Like, how does TV normally feel in that world?
Yeah. So I worked in TV, like on network TV as well. So on network TV, I worked on New Amsterdam recently, which was a medical drama. That was fast. That's a really, really fast show. And the way with music, in that show, we used a lot of, if you're watching New Amsterdam, it's a lot of drums. That movie Birdman, we kind of based season 1's music off of that sound. So yeah, it's like dropping in drums, making it hit, right? And it's also knowing when to stop the music, but also knowing when to stop the music, right? You don't want just wall-to-wall music, then the music doesn't mean anything, right? You want it to really hit emotionally, tell the story. So that's fast. The turnaround there was fast. Mr. Robot, fast turnaround, even though we started filming like way early. Actually Mr. Robot had a longer schedule, but once you start airing, that's when it's more of like a ticking clock. Amazon show, Hunters, that I worked on. Yeah, check it out. Longer schedule. Same with this Apple show that I'm still luckily working on. It's more of a stretched out schedule with streaming shows. So, and yeah, definitely with a feature, I mean, depending on your budget or no budget, you can go as long as you want, right? On a studio feature, I'm sure they have a bigger budget to keep things going and space out the time a little bit more, pay these editors and people in post longer over duration. With TV, the budgets are a little smaller, so they're like, okay, we can only pay the editing post team for 6 months and make 15 episodes in that time. So that's when the producer has to like, okay, this is how we're gonna figure out the schedule here. So yeah, it's definitely fast. And so you get used to that pace. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's about editing, like typically 3 to 4 or 5 hours of footage a day, cutting about 4 or 5 scenes a day. So that's sort of like the pace you want to be at. But I have a funny Al Pacino story because as assistant editors, we do our voice for temp ADR, right? When we need to replace a line or change a line. So, I would do Al Pacino's voice, and in the show, he's playing a Jewish guy. So I sort of had this accent, Jonah, this is not murder, this is mitzvah, So he'd have lines like that, and so in the session, they would play my temp line, and they'd play it back for him, and he'd be like, I don't have to do this line. I already did it.
It's like, perfect.
No, Al, that's our assistant editor, AJ. Like, what? This guy sounds just like me. He's going to put me out of work. Okay, let's play it again. Let's see if I can beat AJ. So,
That's a story you'll tell your grandkids.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.